for being here. If we're running on a tight deadline, if you would just tell us where you are, what you saw, and just try to go ahead and get to the point. And
yes, sir.
let's
I will.
make it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
Sandra Metz. I worked as a poll worker in the last 2 elections in Clark County, Athens, Georgia on November 3rd. Then we had a local runoff for the DA race in December. I worked there both times at 2 different polling stations. In the first election, November 3rd, I was working at the polling station. A gentleman walked in the door and he held up his Florida driver's license and said, "I'm from Florida, can I vote?" And the polling manager walked over to him and goes, "Of course, come with me." And she took him to the table. We had the provisional ballots to fill out. Fortunately, at that time, we were not busy, and I was able to go over and have a conversation with her, and I was asking her, "How can you let this gentleman vote?" And she's ignoring me that time. And I came back up to her, and I kept on saying, I said, "How can you prove he's not ready to vote in Florida? How do you not know he's going to vote there and here?" So after several times of questioning, she finally looked at him and said, "You can't vote," and made him leave. After he left, a little bit later on, I had a gentleman come in the door, and he seemed to know several of the other poll workers because he was chatting it up with them, and he talked about he was a truck driver, and we just said how much we appreciate truck drivers now. Well, he gave me his driver's license, and I scanned the barcode on the back, and I couldn't find him. So then I manually entered him. I couldn't find him. He was not registered to vote. So the manager took him outside and was calling downtown on the phone. 20 minutes later, she walks back in the door. She hands me his driver's license. I scan it in. He's suddenly registered to vote and is allowed to vote. Now she's got the woman that she's talking to on downtown on the speakerphone, and she goes, "Hey, such and such says she needs a big Christmas present." He goes, "Oh yeah, I'll get you a flat screen TV." Then following up, after that, I had a woman walk in the door. She handed me her driver's license. Once again, I put it on the polling pad, scanned the barcode. It showed that she had already received an absentee ballot. She goes, "Oh yes, I got 2 of them, and I sent them both back. I was coming to see if I could vote a 3rd time." I reported this to the manager as well. That woman hung around for a while because her friend was still voting. Now, just so you know, I did call the Secretary of State's office and report all this. I did not hear back from them. Still have not heard back from them. But when I did apply to work at the next election for the DA race, I received a phone call from the woman who hired me the first time and says, "I understand you filed a complaint against us." So I did call back to the Secretary of State's office because I assumed that they didn't know that somebody in their office was telling on people that was reporting this to the Secretary of State's. I have still not heard back from anybody. Now, I will say the 2 ladies that I spoke to were very concerned about that. They were very professional about it. I also worked at closing the polls. We pulled all the ballots out, and we closed them in a little green suitcase type box and put a seal and a lock on it. I also worked as a monitor for the manual recount and the machine recount. My concern immediately when I saw those boxes on the tables full of ballots, they're just ripping the tabs off. Now, you guys, when they put the locks on there, they record the number on the lock on a piece of paper. There is a paperwork trail for this, but nobody's looking at it. They're just ripping off the tabs and throwing them away. There's also a receipt that the scanning machine prints off to tell you the total of ballots in the machine that night that's supposed to be with the ballots. None of those were present when what little bit I could see. I could not see anything. So I was concerned about that. Well, then I'm standing in the middle of the room, not allowed to get close, but some of the ladies had an issue at a table. There were 12 ballots short. And I said, "Do you want me to get somebody for you?" And they said, "Yes." So I had to walk to the doorway back room and yell back there and say, "They need somebody out here at this table." So they came back and they said, "Well, we're short 12 ballots." So the woman that came out the back then leaves the room and returns with 12 ballots and hands them 12 ballots that were not in the case when it was originally opened. So then I worked at the second election. One commonality I found in both elections were people were coming in and they had voted by absentee, or they had their absentee ballot and they turned it in, or they said they didn't want to vote by absentee ballot. Well, we had a lot of people come in both elections that said that when I scanned their driver's license, a barcode read it, and they came up saying they'd already voted by absentee ballot. And when I said that to them, they're like, "I did not vote by absentee ballot. I never applied for an absentee ballot." And I had several people very distressed about that. Then they had to sign an affidavit saying they didn't want the absentee ballot to count. They wanted their vote they cast in person to count. Well, they were upset because there's nowhere in the affidavit to write, "I never asked for one." So there's no trail for data for them to follow to see how many people never requested for their absentee ballot that was sent to somebody. So recently, right before the Senate race, before the cutoff for registering new voters for Georgia, I noticed a bunch of people in a parking lot outside Ollie's and outside a laundromat with a clipboard with getting people to register to vote. And I don't know if you guys have ever looked close at our voter registration form, but you have things like this one there besides your birth date and your address, but your social security number and your driver's license number. So what they could possibly do is if I had you fill this out, I could take this home, take a blank one of these and fill it out in my own handwriting, then I could actually apply for an absentee ballot with this information and have it sent to wherever I wanted it to go without you knowing it. And so that's a couple of my big things that went there. So I did go to the Secretary of State's office when I was researching this, wondering how many absentee ballots were sent. And I didn't even look at the Georgia ones because a lot of people do own property in Clark County that don't live in Clark County, Georgia. I was interested in the ones that did not live in the state of Georgia that had applied for absentee ballots. 585 individuals have requested absentee ballots that live outside of the state of Georgia. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I wanted to make a statement real quick on behalf of Senator Parent. There was a photo that looked like here, but that is not Senator Parent in that photograph. And so I just wanted to make that clear for her, and I've received that statement, and really that photograph should not have been up there. So